Hi, so to let you know, the batteries are going awesomely, but in order to test them, it takes forever. They're long charge, long discharge times now. So in between those charge and discharge times, I was looking to do something else, because otherwise I'd be spending ages just looking at the meters. And what we've done is we've put a kind of a kit together, because I'm a huge fan of upcycling and recycling stuff. And what we thought I would look at is recycling bottles, because we've done something on cutting bottles with our conductive ink, and there's a video on it. I'll point you to that video in the description. And this is a recycled bottle here, and I made this lamp stand from it out of a Venetian blind. So what we're doing is a bit of upcycling. But when we put together this with our little kit, then it becomes a touch lamp. So I just touch there, and it will light bright off. And anywhere on that bar that I touch, it's going to do that. So we've got dim, mid, high, and we can just touch that to make that work as a lamp from recycled materials. So this video is going to be about making this all the way through, and it's going to be using this little kit we've put together that we're going to be selling on the shop, and I'll put the link into the shop also in the description. And it's really just the essential bits that you need, because all of this was made from stuff that I found lying around, apart from these three bits: the touch switch sensor, some of our conductive ink, and a tiny strip of copper so that we can connect this to the conductive ink. You paint over the copper and it makes a good connection. So those three things I figured were the essential components that you might be missing. Everything else was really just about what you would find. And I'm going to do a series of videos about lamps you can make from just stuff you find around you, as long as you've got this kit. And they're all going to be touch lamps, and you're going to be able to turn them off and on just by touching the bit that you paint. So I like that as an idea. The rest of the videos on how to make this particular lamp, there'll be other videos on how to make other lamps using our kit. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it. Hi, so this lamp's about upcycling. Now in my mind there's a difference between found objects and upcycling. In found objects, normally the object wasn't meant for anything. You're just looking around to see what's lying around. Like we went to the beach and found the driftwood. It wasn't really meant for anything. We found the objects and we adapted them into a lamp. This one, we have objects that have been used in a previous life. So chairs, tables, all kinds of stuff, whatever you happen to come across. And you're taking that object at its end of its life and you're reusing it. So that's in the way I think of upcycling. So this lamp's going to be about upcycling. And what we're going to upcycle is this old Venetian blind that I've got here and the wine bottle. So these obviously had a different life. This was used for a long time, and this was obviously full of wine at one time. Now, I've done a video on this technique, and I'll put a pointer in the description to the video, but what we did was we separated, using the conductive ink, the wine bottle into two parts. That's going to become our lampshade, and this is going to become the main form of the lamp body itself. Now we're going to use a technique with this, because this is a wooden slatted Venetian blind, and we're going to use a technique called cold laminating. So we take something, a good strong glue, and in this case we're going to use Cascamite. Cascamite is a boat building glue, incidentally. It's a powdered wood resin that's structural, resists water, and is often used in boat building. So we're going to do that. We're going to take these slats out, bend them around a former, and put a layer of Cascamite on them. Lay them up just like making your own plywood, and then leave them until they dry, and when you take them off they'll have taken the shape of the former. So we're going to bend these. So the jobs we need to do really is to separate out the Venetian blind, mix up the Cascamite, find ourselves a former, bend the forms that we want to bend, and then leave them to dry. So that's what we're going to do next. Okay, so I've got 4 stacks of my nice thin slivers of wood, because obviously I have a plan in mind, which is 2 curves, 1 curve going that way, 1 curve going that way, 2 of those joined together with dowels to make my lamp. So I need 4. So I've got 4 of these stacked up together. They're relatively chunky as it happens, because my plan of attaching those 2 together is to put a dowel between them, and we'll put a few dowels and then we can make the 3D structure out of it. Now you might notice I've got 4 layers of plastic here, cellophane actually, and that's to stop them gluing themselves to each other, because I plan on making them all in one go and I don't want them to glue together, so I'm going to put plastic separator between them. If I was going to do a lot of these, if I was going to make a lot of these lamps, what I'd do is make a forming jig, which is just a bit of MDF or wood into the shape that I want, and then I could clamp my pieces of timber to my forming jig. But the forming jig takes quite a bit of time to make, and I only want to do one of these as a demonstration to you guys, so I haven't bothered with a forming jig. I'm going to use other things to form it with, but a forming jig is ideal. Now you have to get everything ready because you've got about an hour to work with the cascamite once it's mixed. When you mix it, you paint it on with a stiff brush and it's workable for about an hour. After 6 hours, forget it. So we've got to get everything ready so that we're ready to go with it because we've only got that 1 hour to do. Okay, let's get on with making up the cascamite and gluing these and putting them on a former. So here are the separate bits that we've made from the formed timber. We've got 4 bits of them. The idea is that they all fit on a level like that, so they're going to fit like that, and then the bottle is going to be attached here to make our lamp. So that's basically what our lamp is going to look like. So we finished the main framework bits by cold laminating the wood, and what we need now is something that this bottle can sit in that will actually fit to the wood. So what we're going to do is make 2 rings. Now in order to make the 2 rings, I've gone and found myself a nice bit of scrap timber, here it is, and I'm going to cut 2 holes out of it with these hole cutters. So the first one I'll cut is the large hole, and then I'll cut a small hole, which is about the size of the bottle, there. So the bottle will slide into the small hole, and then we'll have a ring of wood. So that's what I'm going to do now.
there we go, we end up with 2 rings that will fit neatly over the bottle. So when I cut these out and I was having a look at the bottle and I was thinking about them being like that, obviously the problem is to attach the bottle to the wood and then put it into the stand, and I thought, well, why don't we do something like that, where we clamp those 2 together and the bottle goes in. And then I'd only have to use 1 arm instead of the 2 that I was originally planning on, because I was kind of thinking to put it like that, but I thought it was looking too chunky. So if I put it like that, it slims the whole thing down and gives me less materials. Then I thought, well, what would look nice? So I thought, well, some kind of like squirrel cage around there would be good. So I only got some 6mm dowel, and what I'm going to do now is drill this out for the 6mm dowel it, put that arm into it, glue it all up so that a whole bottle holder, lampshade holder, is going to be completed. So that's what we're going to do now. So that's what I was thinking about. So that makes our arm holder, and there's our shade for our lamp. So obviously I need to sand this now, clean it up and give it a lick of varnish. Okay, so there's the actual lamp-based finish, and this is made out of the Venetian blind, remember. When I say finish, it's the woodwork of it, and I still need to do a little bit of sanding, a little bit of varnishing, and that finishes the woodwork on the lamp base. So the lamp base stands like that. The bottle goes in there like that, and we'll hot glue the bottle in, and that's your lamp, basically. So there's the lamp made out of the Venetian blind in the bottle. Obviously what we need to do now is add the actual light itself and the touch switch. But essentially, that's it finished. Okay, let's hot glue the bottle in. Okay, so it's going rather well. We've got the bottle glued in. I put a bit of lead tape around here, incidentally, for any rough edges, because we're going to be putting a bulb in there. We don't want to get our hands. Bit of tape there. I was a little bit worried about the stability, so I put a couple of extra feet on, and you might notice there's a little bit here. That's because the electronics will go in there. So the lamp itself is finished. What we need to do now is put the lamp holder in and make it an actual lamp. And to do that, what I did was I disassembled an old lamp I had hanging around because of this. That means I can slide that in there and it'll be far enough down I can actually get the bulb in there quite easily without having to disassemble everything or push everything out when it inevitably goes. Now this piece of metal is thinner than here, so I need something to bring that out so I can jam that in there, and all I've done is taken a bit of electrician's tape and wound it round and round to make a plug. So we've got a nice plug here. Now you might notice there's a little plastic plug in the end of the metal pipe. That's just to stop the wire from contacting. So what we need to do is shove that up there so that it actually jams in. I'll feed that up. There it is. And that'll be quite a tight fit. And if I jam that in there, there we go. We get a nice tight fit of our lamp holder. So the things to do now, obviously, are put some hot glue in there so it's firmly fixed. Affix this wire so that it runs down the back there to where the electronics are going to be, which is right here. I put this to make a little cage. Later I can put some covers on that so you can't touch it. The electronics are going to be in there. Remember, the electronics are this touch switch. Now there's going to be a wiring diagram at the end of the video, but the wiring diagram is also printed on the touch switch box, and it tells you which ones go to which. So the black one here goes to the neutral of the lamp and the neutral of the supply. The yellow one is going to be the actual touch, and we'll put that to where we want to touch it to turn our lamp on. The white one is the lamp live, and the red one is the supply live. Now in the UK we use brown and blue for our neutral and supply, and we use yellow and green for our earth. They will change depending on the country, so you need to look up your code really to make sure that you get the right connections made. But that's how we're going to make those connections. Now, there are a number of ways of making connections. We can use screw clips, we can twist it and put a cap on it. In England, it's counted a permanent connection if you use a crimp, so we're going to use crimps to do that. And then when we've done that, we can actually just glue that or fix that in there, in that little space we've made, and then put the cover on that space. So we're just about finished. All we have to do is connect up those electrics. Then with the touch wire, we need to run it to here with a strip of copper tape on the wood that we can solder it to. Then we paint the wood with our conductive ink. Then anywhere we touch on there, that lamp will come on. And I want it there because mostly that's where it's going to be facing. But I could paint any of this with the ink. I could paint those, then if I touched those, it would come on. I just want it on this bit here. Up to you where you want to touch it. You might want to touch it here, for instance, wherever. So all we're going to do now is hot glue that in, fix the cable down, crimp up the connections, paint this, and then we're ready to go. So there's our lamp finished, made from an old wine bottle and an old Venetian blind. Steve reckons it looks like a giraffe, so I'm going with that. That's our giraffe lamp. Now I've painted the ink here along this front foot, but wherever you paint the ink is where you're going to touch it. This particular one, incidentally, is a 4-touch, so we have dimmest, mid-range, high range, and the next touch will turn it off. So that's the lamp that you can make from our touch lamp kit, all completed, upcycled from an old Venetian blind and a wine bottle. I hope it was of interest to you, and thank you very much for watching.